don't think it's necessary. I came to that conclusion with in consultation with the DNR. Sabi hindi naman kasi extensive, very not naman isolated, highly localized sa mga damage. We're talking about the East Coast, Quezon, dito sa Cavite, and then Maguindanao. I don't think it's necessary. I think we will focus better if we stay with the calamity status as we have now.
From the nation's capital, all sides, all the time, I'm Jess De Los Santos.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. The big story tonight.
The wrath of Tropical Storm Paeng has resulted in 98 reported deaths so far. In its 6 a.m. situational report, the NDRRMC said only 58 of these deaths have been confirmed, while 40 casualties have yet to be validated. 69 persons were also injured, while at least 63 others are still missing. Around 1.95 million individuals or 590,000 families were also affected by Paeng over the weekend. Damage to agriculture, meanwhile, is pegged at 435 million pesos, while damage to infrastructure is estimated at 757 million pesos.
Despite these, President Bongbong Marcos said there is need to place or no need to place the Philippines under a state of calamity. That's in response to the earlier recommendation of the NDRRMC to declare a year-long national state of calamity, noting that 16 out of 17 regions were classified as high-risk areas during the onslaught of Paeng. Rescue workers continue to find bodies under rocks and mud in Datu Odin Sinsuat after the town was overwhelmed by flash floods and landslides caused by severe tropical storm Paeng. Mon Gualvez with the big story.
Using a shovel and pick mattock, authorities manually dug through thick soil and sand in Sitio Tinambon in Barangay Cusiong, Datu Odin Sinsuat in Maguindanao del Norte. Their purpose is to get to the bodies buried alive after a landslide occurred Friday dawn due to severe tropical storm Paeng. Around 200 homes are said to have stood in the area. And after a few hours, quite a number of corpses were dug, one of which is a 2-year-old kid. Authorities admit the retrieval operation was tough in what they now call the ground zero of Bangsamoro region.
Napakalawak po yung area and then yung tinamaan po nung landslide. So ang hirap po hanapin. So ang ginagawa po ng mga rescuers natin, portion po ang ginagawa nila na paghahanap.
The digging was also made difficult for authorities since they can't use a backhoe. This is because tri people, or a mixture of Muslims, Christians, and indigenous people lived in the area.
Meron po tayong iba't ibang tribo dito po sa Maguindanao. So may kanya-kanyang culture po. So yun po ang iniwasan namin. Meron inangatan namin yung sensitivity na nararamdaman po ng mga pamilya po.
One of the survivors, Deborah, was in the area. She was said to survive the landslide as 11 of her relatives were dug out from the land lifeless. She's still hoping her grandparents will be recovered.
First time ko po kasing naranasan ito mula pagkabata, sir. Parang panaginip na hindi ko ma-explain. Sana makita lang yung si lolo at lola para mabigyan lang namin sila ng disenteng burol, sir, kasi kawawa naman po sila.
Authorities said the barangay has actually advised residents to evacuate, but many chose to stay. According to Mayor Datu Lester Sinsuat, some of the families in Cusiong were relocated there from the town's coastal areas. But they did not expect this tragedy to happen.
Sabi niya, Dato, ngayon lang nangyari, sabi nitong landslide na ito. Hindi namin expect mo na yung pinaka-safe pala na akala ng mga engineer natin na doon pala yung napuruan talaga ng landslide.
The Maguindanao government admits they're accustomed to the floods since their area is actually a catch basin of water coming from nearby provinces. But they believe that someone became lax in advising about the strength of the storm.
Ang ang naiabiso po sa atin is yung direction ng bagyong Paeng, ang maidudulot lamang nito is light, no? Light rainfall. So it's not an alarming. So hindi natin na-alarma yung mga ating kababayan dahil nga po hindi na sa red alert status ang binigay.
In their latest report, around 61 individuals in Maguindanao were confirmed dead due to the onslaught of Paeng. Over 582,000 individuals, meanwhile, were affected from 202,000 households in 389 barangays across the region. For News 5, Mon Gualvez, We Are One News.
Several other areas in the country were heavily affected by the onslaught of Paeng. The city of Marikina endured floods after the water level in the Marikina River rose over the weekend. The Manila Police District, meanwhile, offered free rides to stranded passengers along Taft Avenue. In Laguna, patients had to be evacuated as some hospitals in Binyan and San Pedro got flooded. They're currently staying in various gymnasiums until the flood situation subsides. Several motorists got stranded in Noveleta in Cavite due to an overflow in Tabuan Bridge. In Imus, a mother and child died after the land where their house stands collapsed. Quezon Province Governor Helen Tan led the inspection of a damaged spillway in Sariaya town. The LGU also rescued several families trapped in waist-height floods in Lucena City. The Quezon LGU said more than 106,000 residents were affected by Paeng in the province. Weather has slightly improved in Bicol region, but Albay province has been placed under state of calamity. More than 5,000 families have been evacuated over the weekend right before Paeng's onslaught. Meanwhile, President Bongbong Marcos led an aerial inspection and distribution of aid to typhoon-hit residents earlier today. In his speech, Marcos tasked concerned agencies to ramp up efforts to provide assistance to affected families. This was the president's first public appearance after rumors of him being out of the country swirled over the weekend.
Hanggat nandito kayo, hanggat nandito yung mga evacuees ay nasa evacuation center, ay titiyakin natin na meron kayong sapat na sa lahat ng inyong pangangailangan hanggat makabalik na nga kayo sa inyong mga lugar.
Let's get the latest on the rescue and relief operations from spokesperson Edu Punay of the Social Welfare Department, who's joining us over the phone. Yusek Punay, welcome to the big story.
Good evening, Ma'am Gretchen.
Yusek Punay, given that Paeng has ravaged areas from north to south, from Luzon to Mindanao, how are you approaching deployment efforts when it comes to both relief and personnel? Which areas are you prioritizing?
Well, Ma'am Gretchen, the DSWD has been proactive in our response to calamities and situations like this. In fact, when Secretary Orin-Tulfo assumed the office in July, there were already prepositioning of relief goods in strategic locations nationwide in our field offices and regional offices. So our priority really is to provide immediate support to affected residents and communities, particularly by providing food and non-food items, the basic needs that our countrymen will need in times like this, Ma'am Gretchen.
Okay, so which areas remain difficult to reach, given your assessment of the damage and need of the area?
That's right, Ma'am Gretchen. The DSWD, in collaboration with other agencies in our response cluster, we experienced logistical challenges really in providing assistance to our affected communities, especially in provinces with high flood incidents, such as in Cavite, in Calabarzon, and particularly in Maguindanao, where 2 bridges actually collapsed. So we had a problem delivering the relief items there. But in collaboration and with the help of the Office of Civil Defense and the Philippine National Police, we were able to hurdle these challenges, and we delivered the relief goods by air and by sea, Ma'am Gretchen. Thank you.
Now, apart from food packs and other basic necessities, what other forms of assistance are you going to make available for those who were affected by Typhoon Paeng?
Yes, sir, Jess. DSWD will be providing assistance to these families of casualties in the form of cash assistance to help them in the burial expenses under our IKES program.
How
for
much
the
would that be,
assistance in individuals in crisis situations program, which would amount to maximum 10,000 peso in cash or guarantee letter for the funeral services. And we will also provide cash assistance to those whose houses were damaged by the typhoon under our emergency shelter assistance program. And we also have our emergency cash transfer and cash for work programs, which will help these communities recover quickly from the aftermath of the Paeng.
Now, Yusek, give us an idea here about the availability of your relief resources here for the DSWD. We may, as I understand it, you have funds available at least for assistance during Paeng, but what comes after? I mean, you have Pag-asa still projecting 4 more typhoons for the remainder of the year. Do you have enough resources, at least in your wards, to make available for the remainder of the year should there be other typhoons, perhaps hopefully not as big as Paeng?
Yes, sir, Jess. For this Typhoon Paeng, we actually have so far released 48 million in humanitarian assistance for the government's disaster response for the Typhoon Paeng. And the DSWD still has 1.2 billion in stockpiles and standby funds, which we believe is still a significant amount. And should this need augmentation, DSWD is ready to augment this fund to provide enough assistance for our communities and countrymen who will be affected by the remaining upcoming typhoons and other calamities this year.
All right, thank you very much for those updates. Again, DSWD spokesperson Edu Punay. Thank you very much, Yusek.
Meanwhile, Tropical Storm Queenie has accelerated west-southwestward while maintaining its strength. Queenie was last spotted 695 kilometers east-southeast of Hinatuan, Surigao del Sur. Pag-asa says the tropical cyclone is expected to maintain its strength in the next 12 hours, but may weaken into a tropical depression by tomorrow and turn into a remnant low by Thursday. Still, it is expected to bring rain over Caraga, Eastern Visayas, and Davao Oriental from Tuesday to Wednesday. By Thursday, Tropical Storm Queenie may also bring rain over northern Mindanao, Central Visayas, and Bicol. Meanwhile, Tropical Cyclone Wind Signal number 1 is still raised over parts of Luzon due to severe Tropical Storm Paeng. These include Abra, the western portion of Benguet, the southern portion of Ilocos Norte and Ilocos Sur. Same goes for La Union, the central and western portions of Pangasinan and Tarlac, as well as the northern and central portions of Zambales. Pag-asa says severe Tropical Storm Paeng has already exited the Philippine area of responsibility past 12 noon, but it is still expected to bring rain over parts of Luzon and Visayas until tomorrow morning. Paeng is also forecast to reach typhoon category tonight or tomorrow early morning. We're pausing for a quick break, but after that, we'll be speaking with DOJ spokesperson Miko Clavano over the results of the second autopsy on the body of the alleged middleman in the Percy Lapid Slay case. That when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
The creator economy is booming. Billions of videos, massive brand deals, multi-millionaire influencers. It's a $100 billion economy that didn't exist 20 years ago. So how did the creator profession grow so incredibly fast? It all comes down to money. Let's go back to 2007. YouTube had just sold to Google and broke into pop culture. Some YouTubers had millions of views, and Google was ready to turn that into a commercial business. But many viewers weren't ready for commercials. In fact, YouTube creators chose not to run money-making ads on their videos because fans hated them so much.
At that time of YouTube, there was no such thing as an ad revenue split. There weren't such things as ad ads on YouTube. It was a totally ad-free website, and they basically explained, what would happen. There'd be like a rev split. There was no such thing as like a pre-roll or a mid-roll or a post-roll. It was just a little pop-up at the bottom. And at that time, we were a little bit worried that our fan base would call us sellouts for having an ad pop up on the bottom of the video. And they did. I still had my part-time job at Chuck E. Cheese, and I was going to community college and living in my parents' house. We were getting some crazy views on videos, but at that time it was just like, okay, this is cool and there's something here, but there's no money here yet.
But years later, after some trial and error, YouTube's online economy picked up pace. The company set its business model apart from traditional TV by leaning on the commercial appeal of its stars. Millions of channels started making money. Last year, YouTube made more than $28 billion in advertising and had 2 million creators in its ads program. But unlike in 2007, YouTube has some serious competitors. TikTok has emerged as a defining app of a generation. The short-form video platform loved by Gen Z was the most downloaded app of 2021 and has surged to 1 billion plus global users.
I know for sure there's more money going into TikTok than there was 2 years ago. A lot of advertisers want to go wherever the teens are. It is like the hot thing, and advertisers want to be associated with the hot thing. TikTok just exploded so much. With YouTube, there was a creator community. Like, there weren't a very...
You're watching The Big Story here on One News. The second autopsy on the body of June Villamor, one of the alleged middlemen in the Percy Lapid Slay case, indicates foul play. Here's what we know. According to forensic pathologist Dr. Raquel Fortun's autopsy report, Villamor had a history of asphyxia by plastic bag suffocation. Now, this means that the alleged middleman likely died from being choked with a plastic bag over his head. Fortun also said that the middleman was healthy, which is in contrast to the findings of the NBI's initial autopsy. The first autopsy noted that Villamor died due to a hemorrhage in the heart. Fortun added that there were traces of methamphetamine in Villamor's urine, which could be proof of a possible drug trade in Bilibid.
Based on available information regarding the circumstances surrounding death, the manner is homicide. There is information that he expressed fear for his life shortly before his demise, and that he died from suffocation by means of a plastic bag over his head, consistent with the reported asphyxia.
Now, here to give us the latest developments on the Percy Lapid murder case is DOJ spokesperson Attorney Miko Clavano. He joins us live via Zoom. Good evening, Attorney Clavano, and welcome to The Big Story. Again, you just heard Doc Raquel Fortun here pointing to asphyxia as the cause of death of the alleged middleman. At the same time, you now have 7 persons of interest under NBI custody. And then Justice Secretary Remulla himself saying, they are looking at possible 2 masterminds here. How confident are you that you're finally at least closer to reaching the conclusion of this case?
Hi, good evening, Sir Jess and Ms. Gretchen. Thanks for having me on the show. We've taken a lot of concrete steps to really finding who was behind the killing of both Percy Lapid and June Villamor. And just to give an update, we have more people in custody. The number has already reached 12 for us. So there was an initial 5, and then we added another 7 who were, I guess, part of the statements given by the first 5 that we took into custody. And the story seems to be getting clearer and clearer by the day. The autopsy report done by Dr. Raquel Fortun definitely shed light on the reason why June Villamor passed away. Like she said, the asphyxia by suffocation by a plastic bag was a possible or fitting story that fit the autopsy. So I'd like to point out that in her autopsy, the body of June Villamor was found to be healthy. And so this suffocation by plastic bag fit the story because apparently there is no way to really identify or to really determine or to see that the cause of death was by plastic bag. In her report, she noted that most of the body parts were unremarkable, meaning to say she could not comment or there were no irregularities with regards to the condition of the body when it was found. Okay. And so we're getting closer and closer. The total number of persons of interest in custody between both the DOJ, which is the NBI in effect, and the PNP, which is under DILG, has now reached 15. There are 12, like I said, under the DOJ, and 3 under the DILG, under the PNP.
Okay, first let's...
yes, go ahead.
Attorney, first let's focus on your 12 POIs, at least under DOJ custody. Can you nuance that more for us? Are these POIs also inmates, or are we also looking at possible officials?
They are all inmates as of the moment. The first 5 were brought in from Bucor, New Bilibid Prison. There was 1 from Iwahig, Penal Farm and Colony. And the rest of them were again taken from from New Bilibid Prison. So all inmates, and they all are pointing in the same direction.
Okay, given the discrepancies in the first and the second autopsy, how do you approach the case now? Are you going to subpoena also the first ones who conducted the first autopsy?
Actually, Ms. Gretchen, there is no inconsistency between the NBI autopsy and Dr. Raquel Fortun's autopsy. If you will notice, the hemorrhage was really just a result of the asphyxia suffered by June Villamor. And basically both autopsy reports said that there was nothing wrong with the body. And I think the reason why Dr. Fortun's autopsy indicated that he passed away by suffocation by a plastic bag was because it went simultaneously with the investigation ongoing with the PDLs in custody. And so as they gave their statements and they answered more and more questions by the NBI and PNP jointly, it became clear why or how he passed away. And this was this fit the finding of both reports or both autopsy reports that the body was actually healthy. And the reason why Ms. Raquel Fortun's report included it was because it came later when we already had the information. And Secretary Remulla actually relayed or suggested that maybe it was by plastic bag that the June Villamor passed away. And the reply of Dr. Raquel Fortun was, pwede. So it really was more of a supplement than a finding. The autopsy report found that the body was healthy. And so when Secretary Remulla suggested that could it have been a plastic bag, which came from the statements of our PDLs, or persons deprived of liberty in custody of the NBI, that is when Dr. Raquel Fortun found it fitting or found it possible that he died of asphyxia.
Attorney, Secretary Remulla said in a press conference that this is just a small part of what you've uncovered inside the Bilibid prison. Is that in any way related to the meth that you've discovered in the urine of Villamor? And how much will we see in the upcoming weeks? And is that all still related to the slay of Percy Lapid, or is it a totally different matter?
It's a completely different matter. I think the methamphetamine found in the blood of June Villamor is an indication that there still is a large amount of drugs inside the New Bilibid prison, which is something that the Secretary wishes to address and is at the forefront of his priority list. As soon as we came in this administration, the first thing he wanted to do was to transfer the New Bilibid prison to Sablayan and Nueva Ecija. The reason behind that is because we learned from so many mistakes in the past, and we studied the actual situation in New Bilibid prison, and there's really no other way to solve this than to start from scratch. And given the new locations in Sablayan and in Nueva Ecija, we can right all the wrongs of the facility here in Muntinlupa City. Just to give you an example, number one, the cell phone use and other contrabands found inside New Bilibid prison can now be more closely monitored and can be definitely prevented by sealing everything and using concrete as a material to cover the whole facility. In the New Bilibid prison, the current situation as it is, there's a lot of ground, meaning to say there's grass, there's soil where they can bury these things and will avoid detection. Another thing,
Attorney, these are very interesting things. I hope we can have you back on the show again in some future time. I mean, this is worth another discussion altogether. But again, thank you very much for your updates and your time tonight. DOJ spokesperson, Attorney Nico Clavano. Now, more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News.
Did Elon Musk just dodge a huge legal bullet here in closing this deal for Twitter?
Yeah, we'll never know, will we? But it sure was looking ugly for him as the trial approached. Quite apart from the fact that he avoided having his deposition taken in the case, he was going to have to deal with a lot of, frankly, what seemed like contradictory statements about Twitter in the last several months. And I, for one, didn't see a way for him to get to the goal line in that case, goal line as it was at the time, getting out of the deal. So as much as his turnaround and saying, yep, I'm going to go ahead, was a shock to me, it kind of made sense because I think he was, as we used to say, cruising for a bruising.
Do you think this will impact the tech M&A landscape going forward? You know, will this discourage potential breakups?
Well, I'm not sure it'll do so any more than the law did before. I mean, it's been pretty clear from a number of cases in Delaware that when push comes to shove, if your deal says you don't have a way out, the court's going to do something and is not afraid to make you go through with it, the specific performance remedy that people talk about. So I'm not sure there's new law. I'm not sure there's new guidance, but maybe there's new reassurance that a deal's a deal and it's going to be enforced.
So let's talk about these other issues that he's facing. How serious are these other Tesla situations, and how significant is it that he's got to deal with the same judge who didn't make so many favorable rulings on the Twitter deal leading up to this?
Well, I don't want to puncture your balloon, but I think what's left in Delaware is not nearly as exciting or as big as the case that we almost just had with Twitter. But they're serious, and there are really two cases. One that's scheduled to go to trial soon is the one involving a compensation package Elon got from Tesla back in 2018, a whole slug of stock options in I think 12 tranches.
You're still watching The Big Story here on One News. South Korean authorities are now investigating the crowd crush that killed at least 153 partygoers in Seoul on Saturday. Witnesses describe people scrambling to get out of the suffocating crowd in a downhill alley of Itaewon as people ended up piling on top of one another. This was the first Halloween event in Seoul in 3 years after the country lifted COVID restrictions and social distancing. Nearly all of the victims have been identified, which includes around 56 men and 97 women. President Yoon Suk-yeol has since declared a period of national mourning and designated Itaewon District a disaster zone.
And that's the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World online. You may also log on to onenews.ph For more in-depth analysis, I'm Jess De Los Santos.
The big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. I'm Gretchen Ho. Stay safe, Philippines.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.